Hi everyone, this is Lovelin Johnson, and today we are going to be looking at the 15 invaluable laws of growth. And the law we're going to be talking about is the law of intentionality. Before we get started, I have a question for you. Do you have a growth plan? That was a question asked to John by Kurt Kampmeyer, and John didn't have an answer. He kept explaining the amount of hard work he's doing and other things, but he didn't have an answer. And later that evening, he realized that he needs to invest on a growth plan. He went and purchased the growth plan kit that was sold by Kurt. And today we know John's growth, which has exploded exponentially because of that investment, an investment which was really big, but he chose to invest on himself back then, and he is successful today. So, what is the difference between goals and growth? When you focus on your goals, you may or may not hit your goals. However, if you focus on growth, you're bound to achieve and build on your goals. I often see it as a foundation. If you want to build a skyscraper, you will not have a foundation which can only support a two-story building. It has to support the skyscraper. So when you have a proper growth plan, your foundation is built solid. And should you choose to build a skyscraper, it has all the structural elements that it needs to build something wonderful above it. So a goal, you may or may not achieve it when you are just focusing on goals. But a growth, on the other hand, you will achieve it. There's this great quote by James Allen. It states, people are anxious to change their circumstances, but are unwilling to change themselves. They therefore are bound. Think of the truth that the statement holds. Often when New Year comes, we want to buy the right equipment for our exercise. We buy these awesome containers because we're going to do a meal plan. We buy a yoga mat and all kinds of accessories that could go with our plan. We are willing to change the circumstances, but we are unwilling to change ourselves. We need to commit to showing up to exercise, and all these tools would help us. But often we are not willing to change ourselves, but we are willing to change our circumstances. And because of that, we are bound. So a growth plan would help us to first see the person in the mirror. What should I change within me before I can change things around me? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. So, what is the law of intentionality? Growth doesn't just happen. You need to be intentional with it. We can't assume that we will grow. We need to invest our time and energy in it so we could grow. The book talks about 8 growth traps that we all fall into. The first trap is the assumption gap. We assume we will automatically grow. Childhood growth is often automatic. And because childhood growth is automatic, we assume when we become adults, we will grow automatic. We assume the older we get, the wiser we become. But do we really get wiser? I know a lot of old people who are not wiser because they were not intentional with their growth. Growth is not automatic. You need to be intentional in investing your time and energy for growth to happen. The second gap is the knowledge gap. I don't know how to grow. Often we rely on the school of hard knocks to teach us about life. We do something, we fail at it, and then we learn something. But do we really learn? Is the lesson learned from those experiences always positive or negative? Sometimes we will do something and we'll fail at it. And instead of examining why we failed, we just assume we should never do that again. When we rely on the school of hard knocks, we may or may not learn the right lesson. But if we are intentional with our growth and we have a plan in place, our lessons are also guaranteed. The third gap is the timing gap. It's not the right time to begin. There is this riddle in the book, 5 frogs on a log. Four decide to jump. How many are left in the log? If you answered one, you're wrong. Five are in the log. Why? The fact that four decided to jump didn't mean that they jumped. You see, deciding is different from doing. We often think when we decide, we are actually acting on it. No, we need to jump. That's the action. And just because we decided, it doesn't mean that we did anything with it. It's not the right time to begin, and you're waiting for the right time. But momentum builds when we start acting on our goals. We think that everything should come together, the timing should be perfect, but when you slowly act on your goals and keep growing, momentum builds and you would go on to do great things. The fourth gap is the mistake gap. I'm afraid of making mistakes. Think about your childhood. You want to learn to ride the bicycle. Did you learn just like that? You fell down, you had scraped knees, you had bruises, and one day you were able to ride with ease, and then you went on to go visit your friends. But you kept falling over and over again until you got to that day. So embrace your mistakes. Don't be afraid of falling. It's okay to fall as long as you're willing to get up and keep trying. The fifth gap is a perfection gap. I have to find the best way before I start. I see it as like I want to learn swimming. So instead of jumping into the water, I'm reading books about how a stroke should be made, how you feel in the water, and all those stuff. But does that help really? If I am waiting to get the perfect stroke, would I ever do the right strokes in the water unless I set foot into the water? So don't wait for perfection. Don't wait for everything to fall in place. Don't keep waiting for clarity. Jump and you will learn and get better at it. The sixth gap is the inspiration gap. I don't feel like doing it. Often we wait for this feeling to come before we act. But we need to act in order for the feeling to come. Imagine me wanting to have this great feeling of exercise. Before I exercise, I need to tie my running shoes and show up for exercise. And then the wonderful feeling of exercise comes. I have never connected with anyone who said that they hated a workout after the workout. But before that, I can tell you many friends of mine who would question, do I really have to work out today? But they always say after they work out, they feel wonderful. They feel so happy that they conquered that. Don't wait for your feelings to show in order for you to act. Act and the feelings of joy would follow. The seventh gap is the comparison gap. Others are better than me. But you know what? When others are better than you, it's actually a good thing because you can see how far they have gone. You know you could do it too. They are breaking ceilings, which means you could break ceilings too. And another encouragement that I have for you, don't compare your chapter 1 with someone's chapter 20. They started the walk long before you started the journey. So don't compare yourself, but instead, if they are going further and faster, learn from them and keep aspiring to become like them. More than anything, just be better than who you were yesterday. That's the person you actually have to compare with and get inspiration from people who are going ahead of you. The eighth gap is the expectation gap. I thought it's going to be easier than this. We know we want to climb up the summit and that's where we want to reach, except we expect the conditions to be perfect. We almost expect an escalator ride up the mountain to view the summit. But that's not the case in growth. When you grow, the path is going to be treacherous, it's going to be windy, it's going to be hard, and the journey would just never end until you reach the summit. So the expectation that you have that it's going to be easy makes it difficult when you are in the journey. So we talked about 8 growth gaps that we all fall trap for. I don't know which one resonated with you, but I can tell that I have fallen trap of all these gaps in my own life. During various seasons, I've fallen for mistake gap or the assumption gap or the knowledge gap. And I've been held hostage because I just assume things are going to happen. So I would like you to evaluate your assumptions, your gaps in terms of growth. So once you know that for the season that you are in, you can then work on it. Now that we know the gaps, how do we build on our intentional growth? The book talks about four pillars. Number one, ask the big question now. John says that in the past he would often say, how long would it take to reach there? But later he changed the question to, how far can I go? That gave him such hope and joy in the journey because it was not about how long it's going to take to conquer that, it's how far he can go. And that's what I would encourage you to do. Don't think of it as a destination, think of it as a journey. Go further, go faster, and take more people with you on the ride. But more than anything, be intentional with your growth. The second pillar is do it now. Often we think about, I'll do it someday, I will do it tomorrow, I will do it when the time is right. But the time to do that important thing is now. Do it now. The third pillar is face the fear factor. We all have fears, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of what others would think about us, what others would talk about us, fear of success itself. But you need to embrace the fear, because if you're going to be held crippled by it, you're not going to act. So face your fear. The fourth pillar is change from accidental growth to intentional growth. No one just grows great by accident. You need to be intentional. You need to do things today, not tomorrow. So be intentional with your growth. Growth doesn't happen by accident. A great cathedral is built not just by accident. Great craftsmen, engineers, people with great skills came together and put the plan in action, and they showed up day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decades after decades before this cathedral comes into being. So build the cathedral of yourself. You are meant to do great things. Work on yourself before you could work on others. People are anxious to change their circumstances, but they are seldom willing to change themselves. They, therefore, are bound. Let that not be said about you. Be willing to change things in you before you can change things around you. And you are bound to see growth. I hope you found this lesson helpful. Next week, we are going to be talking about the law of awareness. I hope to see you there.